from the heart of the city too busy to hate. A progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Thank you so much for listening, whether it's on Georgia Now, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m., 11 p.m. at Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or if you listen via podcast, well, that's how you listen. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that no matter. Pretty packed show today. We have a congressional candidate running for Georgia's 11th congressional district, hoping to unseat Barry Loudermilk. His name is also Barry. So it'll be a battle of the Barrys, perhaps. Well, Barry has to, of course, win the primary. He's got a primary combatant to take on, at least one that is filed anyway. Anyway, Barry Wolfert will join us at the bottom half of the first hour. Bottom half of the second hour, we have a Georgia State House candidate who is running in a special election. Early voting starts on the 17th for that, actually. That is House District 23 here in the Georgia State Legislature. The Representative Mandy Bollinger, who held that seat, passing away last month after a long battle with cancer. So that seat is vacant and needs to be filled as soon as possible. So we have those two candidates to join us. I'm going to go over some of the timeline that we can expect to see being adhered to now that the House has voted to have the full barrage of Department of Justice Epstein files released. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It'll take a few days. In fact, what they did last night has to apparently cure, like bacon in a meat locker, I guess. I don't really understand the full mechanics behind that. Heather Cox Richardson does, though, and she shared on a social media post how this all plays out. So we'll go over that in about an hour. In the meanwhile, I didn't get to do this yesterday, but I really wanted to share some of the oogie audio and antics from the Laura Ingraham Donald Trump interview palooza. I don't like Laura Ingraham. Never really have. She's very smarmy, very snarky, and of course she's on Fox News, so she's never going to give it to her audience the way facts and data, math, and science would lead you to believe someone who is a journalist would. But remember, Laura Ingraham is a Fox News personality, not a journalist. Incidentally, I'm sorry for this aside, but I have to give you this aside. Let me do this real quick. There was fellow Georgia Now compatriot Stephanie Miller. She's also on Progressive Voices as well, and airs on a few different other audio and radio stations throughout the country. She went on with Sean Hannity, and I guess they have something of a what would the relationship be when you don't agree or you don't see eye to eye politically, but you're willing to go on each other's show? I don't know why Sean Hannity keeps falling for this. Like, he's had Pete Buttigieg on, Pete owned him. He's had Gavin Newsom on, Gavin owned him. Stephanie Miller did the very same thing. Listen to this.
All right, so I do have a question. I tried to get an answer out of you on radio. Okay, the question is, when did you notice Joe Biden's cognitive decline? And don't change the subject and deflect. When did you really notice it?
Well, I think it was through all of the times that Donald Trump has fallen asleep in public and talked about, magnets getting wet in the last few,
oh my gosh.
My mom had dementia, so I recognize it.
Stephanie, this is not, it's a very good deflection. You're a professional.
You know what else is great about
Biden's
decline is that Trump is all over the Epstein files, and I'm wondering if they're going to release those. Are you covering that tonight?
Not really, because the woman that apparently they're talking about is the one that said he was a gentleman and never did anything wrong. And the person that had a grudge was the guy that got thrown out of Mar-a-Lago 25 years ago. And by the way, when you get thrown out of a club in Palm Beach, Florida, that's kind of a big deal. And it's very humiliating and embarrassing. And he was a convicted pedophile. So I'm not exactly putting a lot of gospel truth in what he said.
Trump was mad that he was stealing his girls. But
So here's a problem I have if I'm Sean Hannity or his producer. Wait a minute. You had her on radio first before coming on this televised show. You knew she was going to do this because she did it on radio, and you brought her on here anyway? Oh, my God. It's almost as if Sean Hannity is sort of backhanded helping bring down Donald Trump. I mean, if that's the case, thank you. The other thing, this is the popular right wing retort right now. Well, Virginia Giuffre, she vouched for Donald. No, she didn't. She just said that she's not aware of him personally doing anything to her. The damning part of the emails that came out yesterday was that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were still in the loop together long after Donald Trump said that he ended their relationship, their friendship, and that, he was around in the orbit of things going on when he had to have clearly known things were going on. He wasn't a whistleblower back then. I have a friend on Facebook. He's an assistant professor of public policy at Georgia Tech. His name's Zach Taylor. He posted something earlier today on his Facebook page that I thought made a lot of sense about what the GOP needs to do and how it's a bad look that they're not shedding themselves of the pedophiles in their midst after making so much noise about Pizzagate and pedophilia and all this nonsense, right? It's not as if, I'm in the habit, again, of telling Republicans what they need to do or what they ought to do, but he did have some advice. He goes, y'all got to get clear of this, and fast. Well, there may actually be some numbers to do that. And here's what's going to happen. And by the way, again, an hour from now, I'll go into the whole timeline of things. Heather Cox Richardson actually did it. I'm just going to regurgitate it for you. Where at the end of the day, these discharges have to cross the president's desk. He's going to veto it. I mean, he was working behind the scenes feverishly. Had Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room so that there were no recording devices. That's not, as Carolyn Levitt said to the press spray yesterday, that's not the transparent, she was talking about how much more transparent can you be? He's trying to, in the Situation Room where there are no recording devices. That's not transparent, Carolyn. Sorry, ma'am. Anyway, he was working feverishly and objected to the House having that vote to release the full Epstein files. Why? I mean, you campaigned on it, dude. Why now would this be an issue for you? This is your sword to fall on, buddy. And if I'm being honest, this feels like this could be the line that a lot of MAGA says, you know what? Got to tap out. Howard Kurtz at Fox News, who I think is a fair-minded individual working at Fox News, wrote, I usually try to give President Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. He is constantly under assault by Democrats and the media and does more than his share of attacking, but every controversy is cranked up to 11. On the Jeffrey Epstein mess, I always assumed they were good pals, as was Bill Clinton. But that if there was anything truly awful about the president, it would have come out long ago. And if Trump had done something bad, these rich guys wouldn't be dumb enough to leave a paper trail. When the business about the birthday message to Epstein came out, this is Howard Kurtz writing, I assumed, like most people, including some conservative colleagues, that it was real. Writing such a message in 2003 at the request of Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, even with its racy scribble, just didn't seem like that big a deal. The problem was that Trump kept calling it fake, a denial that continues today. Kurtz continues, but the latest batch of Epstein emails released yesterday by Democrats on the House Oversight Panel are, what's the right word, he says, troubling. At a very minimum, the long secret correspondence indicates that Trump was aware of Epstein's predatory behavior well before he said he broke off the friendship. As for the White House defense that there's nothing to see here and that shows Trump did nothing wrong, consider this, Howard writes. This is like alternate universe stuff that he's saying here. Investigating House Republicans obtained documents showing that President Obama knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and may have had relations with one of the young victims. Wouldn't 99% of them be screaming about what a horrifying scandal this was? And wouldn't most Democrats, even if they criticize the conduct, be searching for ways to justify it? The president cited the thousands of documents and said Democrats are, quote, trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown. There are reports that the president called Representative Lauren Boebert, actually Carolyn Levitt confirmed that, and tried to reach Representative Nancy Mace to prevent the House from reaching 218 votes for what's known as a discharge petition, circumventing the leadership to push legislation to the floor. Speaker Mike Johnson refused for 50 days to seat newly elected Arizona Representative Adelaita Grijalva for the blatantly partisan reason that she vowed to be the 218th vote. CNN says 2 more GOP reps now say they will join the effort. Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please, said Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt. Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't it show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns, she said yesterday, in the Situation Room where there are no recording devices. Democrats, said Trump, are, quote, trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown. Howard Kurtz writes, you've probably read the most damaging quotes by now. In the most accusatory email, Epstein said, quote, victim spent hours at my house with Trump, the woman who later accused Epstein of sexually abusing her during her teenage years. That name in the 20,000 documents released was redacted, but the Washington Post was among the outlets who identified her as Virginia Giuffre, who was a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago before Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, hired her away, which Trump has cited as the reason for the split from Epstein. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. But her alleged involvement also may provide some exculpatory evidence. Giuffre always maintained that she recalled meeting Trump once and he was merely friendly. She said the same in a posthumous memoir published last month by her family. Howard Kurtz writes, we may never know whether she feared the prospect of making allegations against a former president or later a second-term one. In a 2011 email to Maxwell, Epstein said, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is him, Trump. In one 2019 email to journalist Michael Wolff, Epstein said of Trump that, quote, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Epstein killed himself in prison later that year. Maxwell, serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, was transferred to a minimum security prison after being interviewed by Trump's deputy attorney general. Wolff had a striking exchange of emails with Epstein after what he says was a rejection of the prisoner's offer to write his biography in 2015 when Trump first began running for president. Wolff was coaching Epstein on what to say about the candidate in an upcoming CNN interview. When he said, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or at the house, then that gives you valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially benefits a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Wow. Wolff, who I've known for years, Kurtz writes, has seen his credibility seriously diminish after recent books about Trump. Wolff has not said why he held back this information after Epstein's suicide, as death is generally viewed in journalism as releasing an interviewer from any off-the-record pledge. Here's one more about a 2018 exchange with Obama's former White House counsel, Kathleen Rumler, about a New York Times op-ed arguing for Trump's impeachment. Epstein wrote that, you see, I know how dirty Donald is. There has, not surprisingly, been a torrent of criticism from Democrats aimed at the president. Howard Kurtz continues, let's take a broader view. Trump's reputation as a womanizer, particularly with the allegations involving Stormy Daniels and hush money, is well known, yet the possibility of sex with an underage minor is in a far darker category. What's more, two of the key people involved in that case are dead. How long will the Epstein saga drag on, he asks. What happens if and when emails involving Democrats and Epstein come out? In our limited experience with impeachment, alleged misconduct from well over a decade in the past involving an office holder who was a private citizen at the time is generally not pursued. So there may come a point where this unresolved uproar gives way to new controversies about the 47th president. I can say one thing, Howard Kurtz writes, without fear of contradiction. The bombshell documents totally overshadowed what happened a few hours later. The House voting to end the shutdown of the federal government after 43 agonizing days. Again, we'll go over the timeline. Top of the hour, 5 o'clock, a little after 5 actually. Heather Cox Richardson lays out what happens now that this discharge position has been voted on. We're talking about a 8 to 10 day window here before any more aha becomes aha. In the meanwhile, I want to spend a little time sharing with you some of the audio from the Laura Ingraham interview inside the Oval Office and the White House and the tour she got of the Presidential Walk of Fame and all that good stuff. It was oogie. And you can even hear, I swear if you listen hard enough, Laura Ingraham's BS meter going off when the Ron Show returns. Donald Trump sat down with Laura Ingraham a couple nights ago and managed to insult the American working class. But come on, how many of you actually thought, those of you in the working class, thought that Donald Trump was really out there working hard for you? No. The H-1B visa program is the bone of contention that came up in their Q&A. Listen to this exchange.
We have potentially the greatest, already it is.
Aren't you feeling
but
it?
we have, when these things open up, There's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well, I'll give you an example. In Georgia.
Good question. BS meter going off.
They raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. Making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems.
Yo, how the hell did we ever make batteries before the South Koreans came along, right? What?
They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country.
You notice how he keeps saying they? It was ICE. Those are his people. They is he.
You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
No, how it works is we invest in education so that while these plants are being built, and by the way, Trump had nothing to do with that. That is a Governor Brian Kemp project, the Hyundai project in Georgia. Far be it from me to give a Republican credit, but Brian Kemp was thinking about green energy into the 21st century here in the state of Georgia. Tip of the cap, right? Meanwhile, it's Trump's ICE that are, screwing up the works by having these South Korean folks who I guess some had overstayed their visas or whatever, getting swept up in a raid. Oops. Those ICE goons, by the way, they're looking for those working in construction. The Hispanic ones. And because there were folks from Korea there too, and show me your papers, and wait, you don't have papers? Nope, this looks like it's expired. All of a sudden, our immigration system is kind of FUBAR. It's kind of tough to navigate, and that's by design, not by Democrat design, but by design, and that caused a furor. Not the furor, a furor. Sorry, let me clear that up so that somebody's Nazi sensitivities don't get their hackles up. But what you do is you're building these plants, and oh, by the way, while you're building the plants, you can be training American workers in the interim, right? That's kind of what the South Koreans were here to do. You can be making sure that local trade schools, technical colleges, et cetera, and so on, even at the high school level, vocational, that there are future employees being educated and ready to be employed at these places. Instead, Donald Trump just said, Americans aren't smart enough to handle this. We're going to have to outsource some international folks to come here. So we got to have the H-1B visa program. Incidentally, can I just tell you, I lived in a tourist mecca, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for a little more than 11 years. And they have the H-2B visa program where they would let folks come in here from other countries, most of them from European countries, a lot of them from the Eastern Bloc, as a matter of fact. I remember that, who come to work here, college-age students who come to work here, at all the hotels and resorts, et cetera, and so on, because I guess there aren't enough people who will work for the substandard wages that come with working in the hospitality, food, and beverage industry in a market like Myrtle Beach. I mean, Myrtle Beach is consistently one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country every time those rankings come out. And yet somehow, despite the fact that that area is growing, I guess it's just not growing with a burgeoning workforce. And people aren't moving there because the jobs apparently don't pay well enough. No, they rely on the H-2B visa program and bringing in foreign students or foreign college-age folks to work these jobs. And they're packing them into apartment complexes, sometimes 6 to 8 for a 2 to 4 bedroom apartment in some apartment complex where, by the way, public transportation isn't all that plentiful in Myrtle Beach either. They're either having to walk to and from their jobs. No, I saw this all the time. It was unreal. Or would have to carpool with folks who did live in Myrtle Beach or had jobs and lived in Myrtle Beach in vehicles to get to and from. These visa programs aren't set up to benefit the American worker or even the foreign worker who comes here to work. I mean, the H-1B is kind of like a smart people visa. The H-2B is the grunt labor visa. But in either case, the method isn't to uplift the American worker. It's to pad profit margins for the employer that needs that labor by any means necessary. When is it going to sink in for the working class MAGA that MAGA ain't working for the working class? But hey, y'all, good news.
We are doing phenomenally well. This is the greatest economy we've ever had.
Didn't you know?
Their talking points, costs are high, costs are high. By the way, the only thing is beef.
No.
Beef.
Coffee.
Is a little high because the ranchers are doing great. Coffee, we're going to lower some tariffs. We're going to have some coffee come in.
Soybeans.
We're going to take care of all this stuff very quickly, very easily.
Here we go.
It's surgical. It's beautiful to watch.
Surgical.
But our costs are way lower. Now,
no, they're not.
Walmart came out with a statement that they do every year for many, many decades. And they said that a Thanksgiving meal costs 25% less this Thanksgiving.
Has fewer products.
Coming up, think of that, than it did last Thanksgiving under Sleepy Joe Biden.
First of all, that guy's never waddled into a Walmart in a day in his life. Number two, fewer products, generic or store brand versus name brand products. But Laura Ingraham didn't push back on that. I'm surprised. Anyway, up next, running for Georgia's 11th congressional district. His name's Barry Wolfert. When the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now.
Broadcasting 5 days a week to make common sense common again. This is The Ron Show.
You can hear us weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now, the app on the App Store, Google Play, as well as iHeartRadio. Or you can listen at 11 p.m. weeknights on Progressive Voices or wherever you podcast. Barry Wolfert is going to run for Congress, is running for Congress, actually, and will be on the ballot in 2026, hopefully unseating the likes of Barry Loudermilk in Georgia's 11th congressional district. Barry joins me today. Hey, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ron.
Why did you want to run for Congress? By the way, he and I both have something in common. We both work in the real estate industry. So we can talk about housing issues in just a little bit. But why did you want to run for Congress? What was it that made you say, I got to get off my duff here and do something?
Well, earlier this year, after the One Big Beautiful Bill passed, and I read about the impact it's going to have on Social Security, Medicare, and other various important programs, and how it's going to affect me directly in my plans, I realized, I can't just sit back and watch this happen. I can't watch the whole thing collapse.
And hopefully, by the time you're sworn in, we still have a country and something of a democracy that you can be sworn into office, and you won't have to wait for a government shutdown and Mike Johnson to foot drag on getting everybody sworn in. Hopefully, by that time.
Hopefully Mike Johnson won't be the guy.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, maybe it'll be Hakeem Jeffries or somebody else on the left that'll be swearing folks in. That would be a bit of a dream. So the results of last Tuesday seemed like a distant memory after the shutdown and the shutdown negotiations, and now the shutdown is over. What were your immediate reactions to the Senate Democrats deciding that it was time to take the ball and go home?
I think that they squandered 40 days of leverage and pressure to get a deal done. Listen, I understand the pain that everybody was feeling. We were all feeling it. I did a little research, and this isn't to say that one person suffering isn't one person too many, but, there's about 2 million federal government employees and about 2 million uniformed military people. So that's 4 million people. And they were all affected. Some got pay, but let's just call it what it is. 4 million people were working or not working and not getting paid, right?
Yeah.
But undoing the shutdown has now put 25 plus million Americans at risk of having no health care that they can afford.
Yeah.
And I say that, while it's difficult for anybody that has to impact that, and I was advocating that here in Georgia, our governor do something with the $5 billion undesignated surplus that we have sitting in the Georgia banks to fund the SNAP program, because when you're talking about people not eating, that's unacceptable no matter what. Right. But, I thought if you're asking me where I'd place my bet, I was willing to I would have been willing to keep the shutdown going to put pressure on so that we've gotten some movement and some resolution on the healthcare subsidies, even if it's only for a year.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about a vote and sometime in December. Well, December 15th is the last day to sign up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do? Vote on the 11th? And if they say no, then everybody's got 4 days to scramble.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, then the health care companies have to scramble to figure it out. This is a mess.
Yeah, and well, I feel like this is the hallmark of the Trump era. Everything is chaotic, and every day brings new chaos of some sort, and we're sort of in this PTSD moment where we're just waiting for the next chaotic thing to come up. And I hate that we've gotten.
Well, you won't have to wait long.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that we've gotten acclimated to it, but we kind of have, and I agree 1,000% with you that I think Democrats sort of squandered an opportunity. But also, I don't feel like messaging is the Democratic Party's strength. Like they didn't come to us and say, as American people, hey, listen, we know we're not at war, literally, but we're gonna need you to make some sacrifices. Your grandparents and your great grandparents, they had to make sacrifices during World War II, rationing and stepping up to help your neighbor out, and this, that, and the other. And they didn't ask us to do that, but we were doing it. A lot of the nonprofit folks were stepping up and helping out with SNAP benefits, and even some politicians at the state and local level were doing their part. And I almost feel like it was the airline industry that was starting to buckle the most and was causing the most pressure with politicians because United came out with their statement and Delta did too, and next thing you know, we've got folks who are waffling.
Well, I think there's only so many straws you can put on the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
And when you're sitting here going, people aren't getting paid, people aren't getting food.
Right.
We have Thanksgiving coming up. We may not be able to travel. I think the FAA cut back on flights. Well, I want to respect that there was some safety concern in that.
Sure.
You know what? I think the Trump used that as a leverage point just to put more pressure. He's willing to throw people under the bus over and over again if it gets into his finish line. And I'm not running against Donald Trump, okay? And
but Barry Loudermilk is definitely a rubber stamp for Donald Trump.
Well, he hasn't shown otherwise. In fact, talking more specifically about my race. What is it? 43 days the government was shut down. Yeah. If I had been the congressman, I would have been holding public meetings with my constituents. I would have been championing some food drives and trying to be out there. This guy was nowhere to show.
Yeah.
I saw about 5 Facebook posts that were posted that are your typical boilerplate canned Republican speaking lines. And I'll say also, I don't know what happened in other districts, but I didn't see many people step up. And if you're not going to be in Washington doing your job there, you certainly can be in the home district doing it here.
Yeah.
There's no leadership. There's no vision. And I don't know what we expect from people that have been doing their jobs, been in these positions for 5-10 years, collecting a nice paycheck and a pension and just going, let them eat cake.
You and I, of course, work in the real estate industry, and before I was in real estate, I was in radio broadcasting, and those are two industries where the businesses, the folks in the businesses, do a lot for the community, and it's sort of like ingrained in our DNA. When you talk about holding food drives and working in pantries and things like that, that's ingrained in our DNA, but it just doesn't seem to be something that MAGA or the GOP had any appetite for with this shutdown. I've failed to find much evidence of it, but I did see a bit of it on the left at the very, like Rula Roman, who's running for governor here in Georgia. She was holding a statewide food drive. I mean, at least I was seeing an effort from the left. I just didn't see any of that from the right, to your point.
Well, I'm sure that on the individual level, there are good people all over and that people were taking care of their neighbors.
Sure.
But, the Republican Party, as I see it right now, is not a party of community. It's not a we party. It's an I party. Mm. And, I think and I'm generalizing, so there's certainly, I can't speak to the entire country, but you typically see on the Democrat side that we fight more for all boat. Rising tide lifts all boats, and the Republicans are like, a rising tide lifts my $1 million boat, and I don't really care. My yacht, yeah, and the rest of the boats can sink or not sink.
Stay out of my wake.
Right, exactly. Eat my wake. So, I mean, it's a generalization because, again, there's good people everywhere.
Sure.
But, as a party, and again, I agree with you, the Democrats, haven't successfully conjured up a message because the party has a big spectrum of people. And one of the things I'm going to need to do, and I want to do, is people need to understand, running as a Democrat, that being a Democrat in Georgia in the 11th district is different from a Democrat in New York, different from a Democrat in California, different from a Democrat in Alabama and Iowa and anywhere else. And so, I'm running on the issues, that affect me and I know affect everybody else. Healthcare, Social Security, housing affordability.
You just reeled off three important subjects, though, that it doesn't matter if you're left, right, or center. They affect you. So the question is, how are you going to be able to convey your message to a red-leaning district that you're going to need to peel off some votes from the center and the left or in the right?
Well, my message is
by the way, engage with those who are left of the left because they're independents too.
Yeah, I mean, look, my message is simple. If you're feeling the pain, then we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if even if you have a healthcare plan from your employer, which is a subsidized plan, incidentally, no different from the ACA. It just who's subsidizing it. And so even if you have that, we've seen over the years, employers providing less and less, options and requiring people to pay higher premiums, their share, and limited number of plans. One of the nice things about the marketplace is you can shop. There are several dozen plans. You don't get that in a company. Right. You get 2, 3.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who identifies with the Republican Party or even on the MAGA wing, my question to you is your retirement set? Are you comfortable with it? Is your health care set? Are you waiting to get to Medicaid and Medicare, excuse me? And do you think it's going to be there the way you need it? Are your children trying to buy a house? They just put out a survey. I think NAR, the National Association of Realtors, just put out some data that the average age of a first-time home buyer now is 40 years old.
Well, I mean, but they're going to buy a 50-year mortgage, so they'll pay for it before they turn 100.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of happy I won't be around when those mortgages come due. But yeah.
Well, you're going to have to get your grandchild to co-sign the mortgage, of course.
I'm going to have to co-sign for my grandchild before they're born.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as we see housing, especially here in Georgia. I've been a realtor for 23 years. I work all over this district as well as, the neighboring areas. And, the biggest challenge we've had since COVID is inventory availability. And a lot of that came as a result of the large institutional companies coming in and buying tens of thousands of homes. They did that in about 7 or 8 cities in about 2020. And Atlanta was one of them. And so we have houses that are off the market because they're rentals or investment properties. They're not being churned. The people aren't moving from them because, again, these are large companies that are just holding on to that. And so when you look at the availability of housing out there, and then you look at the availability of good houses within that small group, it's fairly limited, and that's going to continue to push prices. It's supply and demand, and we have to find a way to bring some balance into this market. And I'm trying to bring balance to the U.S. Congress.
We're speaking with Barry Wolfer, who's running for the Georgia 11th Congressional District seat, currently held by Barry Loudermilk. He is a local realtor. Let's throw in the Trump tariffs here with Canadian lumber now, a steeper tariff on goods, durable goods that home builders need. That's also passing along the price to the home buyer.
Listen, I remember it is, tariffs are not at all bad. And I didn't have a problem with some of the tariffs that Trump did in his first administration or today, the steel industry being an example where China was flooding the market with low price steel and it was affecting our industry. When you have an industry that's being affected, that's fine. to use some tariffs as a leverage point and to redirect money. However, when you come out and you just tariff everybody and everything, especially because you don't like their television commercial, it's crazy.
Right.
And back up, what was it, 5-6+ years ago? I can't remember the year, but there was a terrible hurricane that went through Florida and wiped out a ton of stuff. And there was a premium on drywall, lumber, and roofing products because it all went to Florida. And we saw prices on new construction here in Atlanta go up quite a bit. But the difference there is it was market driven. And when the demand subsided and the balance of supply came back, the pricing kind of came back. This is not a market induced tariff. This is I want to penalize a country or do punitive things so I can get things in return. And it's killing our industry. It's putting people out of work and it's making us cost more money. And the last thing I'll say about the tariffs is if he comes out and with this tariff dividend, $2,000, right? My question is this: I haven't seen this. Is that going to be taxable income? Are you going to take money out of my pocket, put it in your own bank account, then send it back to me and count it as taxable income when it's my money that I gave you?
Yeah. I mean,
right?
it is a little bit of a circular feeding loop there, where you're not sure how much of it was unnecessary for you to pay out of pocket in the first place, and then even when you get it back, you're going to get it taxed again. It's still money out of your pocket.
That's insult to injury, and we don't need the federal government taking money from us and then redistributing it back to us in terms of in this form. There's something to be said about revenue distribution and income distribution, but not through these tariffs. This is not a good thing. Barry,
you working in real estate know how to self-promote, how to self-market because you've done it for 23 years. You said it's something I've been in real estate since 2019. And coming out of radio broadcasting, like I had that baked in DNA as well. But, for me, it's like ever since I got into real estate, nothing's been normal about it. It has not been really a fruitful, beneficial, business to get into, although I've, sort of clung to survival with it for this period of time. But my question is, are you able to translate what you've learned over those years to self-promote, to self-market, to be able to speak without I call it commission breath, where people can actually believe what you're saying without it, coming off as sounding like you're just trying to benefit yourself? Because you're going to need to do that when you go door knocking, when you create campaign, video or anything, or social media, audio, things of that nature. How are you able to channel that into something that people can actually buy into?
Well, I'll say it this way. I was very fortunate that prior to my career in real estate, I was in the hospitality industry and worked for some of the top hotel companies and organizations. And I learned about service and I learned about how to drive value to people. And when I got to real estate, and I'm with a great organization, Keller Williams, that focuses again on win-win type of scenarios. Look, I'm not doing this because I don't have anything better to do. I'm not doing this because I need more resume material. I'm not doing this because I have an ego in this. And this is the honest to God truth.
You're a realtor. You've got some ego. Come on.
Well, let me tell you something. If my health care was secure, if we didn't have an insolvency coming up in Social Security and everything else, I'd be on the side. I didn't need to jump in here until this stuff really started knocking on my door. How am I going to convince people or whatever? I'm speaking from my heart. My story is their story. And, if you feel the same pain, or if I'm feeling your pain, then maybe you'll listen to what I have to say. One of the things that I plan on doing is, and I'm maybe getting a little ahead of myself because I haven't run yet, or I haven't won anything yet. But if I do get elected, I'm only going to limit myself to 3 terms. I don't want this. I'm not looking for another career. I want to get in. I want to make a difference, and then get out and let somebody else do it. We have to stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us. So, how am I going to do this? We're going to talk. We're going to talk about the problems that I see and some ideas that I have, and more importantly, again, I'll be one guy up there. I'd be one freshman congressman. Can I make a difference? Yeah, I can, because I can bring balance. Just like the woman that just got sworn in yesterday or the other day and signed the 218th signature on the Epstein files. That's one person making a difference. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to stand for what I stand for. And I don't care if my party or the other party care. I'm doing this because I feel compelled and it's in my heart to do it. And if that translates, fantastic.
Well, I know you're very early in the campaign here, and we've still got a primary to go through next May as well to determine who's going to be on the ballot come November.
Yes.
And you're still working on getting the website up and the Act Blue and all that stuff. But in the meanwhile, folks can find you on our Facebook if they want to look you up that way.
Yeah, you can Facebook me at Barry Wolford for Congress. You can also go do BarryWolfordForCongress.com, and that'll take you to the Facebook page. I've just started to flesh out some of my top issues. There's a donate link there.
Okay.
Obviously, the name of the game right now is exposure, and we have to raise money. We have to raise money to take on a 5-term incumbent. This isn't going to be, this isn't PTA. This isn't cupcakes and book drive.
Okay,
this
but if you're going to do cupcakes, can I just recommend red velvet?
You can. I'm a chocolate guy, but you know what?
Well, it's chocolate. I mean, red velvet is chocolate.
Ron, there's room in my campaign for all flavors of cupcake.
I love that. I love that. That's diversity in action right there. Barry Wolford.
Exactly.
I appreciate your time, and thank you for joining the Ron Show. We'll include the URL to your website in the show link at ronshowatl.com.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, and I'm excited about making this run. So I hope people find some of what I said interesting.
Again, that's Barry Wolford running for Georgia's 11th congressional district against the likes of Barry Loudermilk. It is an R-leaning district, but he sounds like something of a pragmatist in a Democrat's uniform. And that's what it's going to take to win in some of those districts that we're going to need to flip in 2026. Anyway, I appreciate him joining us. It's the Ron Show, Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. Back after this. All right, just about 1 hour in the books on the Ron Show. Next hour, I'm going to speak with a state House candidate. There is a special election coming for the Georgia House District 23, and Scott Sanders is the Democrat, the lone Democrat, running for that seat. Special election held when Representative Mandy Bollinger passed away after a long battle with cancer. Now, that is a right-leaning district. She was a Republican, and so Scott Sanders has a lot to overcome in the Cherokee County area that HD 23 tends to encompass. But he is very enthusiastic. I can't wait till you get to hear his sales pitch for this position. Someone who's, by the way, Facebook post that I am drawn to. He is a professor of public policy at Georgia Tech University. He never wants to come on the show, though, because, he's got a job and he doesn't really want to dive into the whole partisan specter of things. His name is Zach Taylor. He posted something earlier today that I really think should be echoed by anyone who is anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, anti-GOP even. He says, Thursday event, the Republicans need to about-face and clean house fast. They are slow walking into becoming the party of pedophilia. They're increasingly vulnerable to being painted as flabby, gray-haired, wealthy perverts drooling over America's children. We'll take away their government welfare and their jobs while giving ourselves tax breaks and crypto contracts. Then those kids will be forced into sex work for us. Bwah ha 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 ha, he says in quotation marks. Yikes, creepy, right? He continues, because it's not just Trump. It's also Matt Gaetz, Roy Moore, Justin Eichhorn, Ray Holmberg, RJ May, and Fox and OANN, et cetera, consistently defending these people to keep them in office, while spreading baseless conspiracy theories about Democratic sex rings at DC pizza joints. Eventually, this will severely damage the conservative movement. He says, I'm not cheering this on. We need a healthy, competitive two-party system. But ours are doing everything they can to turn America into a one-party state. And that only and always ends in corruption. And yes, legalized sex trafficking is a form of corruption, he writes. A full-throated defense of Republicans who have sex with underage girls is not a good look for the party. Please stop. He's absolutely right. And listen, Republicans are already peeling off the Trump train with the looming scepter of more of Epstein's awareness of Trump and what he had on Trump and his shadow on Trump's looming political aspirations. They're coming to light. Heather Cox Richardson, by the way, posted earlier today and kind of gave a timeline of what will happen from here. And the next 8-9 days are pretty important. In fact, I'm going to take a quick break. We're at the end of the first hour here on The Ron Show. And then I'll dive into Heather Cox Richardson's summation of what the timeline looks like for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 days. As we thought the email dump yesterday was just 3 emails. There's way more to come, and it's going to take a little while longer, but those days are numbered. Hey, thank you for hanging with us as long as you have. Another hour to come, though. We air weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. Show notes, as always, at ronshowatl.com. This is The Ron Show on Georgia Now.
From the heart of the city too busy to hate, a progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Second half of this hour, Scott Sanders, the Democrat, the lone Democrat running for House District seat number 23 in the Georgia House of Representatives. He comes on. Mandy Ballinger had represented that district for a while. She passed away last month after a long battle with cancer, the Republican passing away last month. So that's why that seat is vacant. I talked a little bit last hour, and we'll dive in a little bit more about what's going to happen next now that the House of Representatives passed the discharge petition to circumvent House Speaker Mike Johnson to have the full treasure trove of DOJ documents pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein's investigation released. She's smarter than me. She covers this stuff. This is her job. She makes a good living at it. I don't yet. Heather Cox Richardson wrote that the House got down to business after a 54-day break to work on the Senate measure to reopen the government. Democrats on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform immediately released 3 emails from a cache of more than 23,000 documents the committee received recently from the Epstein estate. The first email was one Epstein sent to his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, on April 2nd, 2011. It referred to a story in which the fictional detective Sherlock Holmes solved a case by noting that a dog didn't bark at a crime scene because it knew the perpetrator. The reference has come to mean an expected action or piece of evidence whose absence proves guilt. Epstein wrote, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. We assume that the redacted name was Virginia Giuffre. Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Maxwell replied, I've been thinking about that. The second email the Democrats released was from January 2019, from Epstein to Trump biographer Michael Wolff. In it, Epstein said of Trump, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Heather Cox Richardson continues in a third email thread from December 2015 after Trump had declared his candidacy for the 2016 presidential election. Wolff told Epstein that CNN would ask Trump about his relationship with Epstein. Epstein asked what Wolff thought Trump should answer. Wolff wrote, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Richardson writes, as legal analyst Aisha Rangappa noted, this exchange suggests that Epstein would have leverage over Trump if Trump tried to say he had not been to Epstein's house or on his plane. In other words, that Trump was there and Epstein had receipts. After the Democrats released these 3 emails, Johnson called the release another publicity stunt by the Democrats and claimed they're trying to mislead people. Committee Chair James Comer from Kentucky issued a statement accusing the Democrats of cherry-picking documents and politicizing information. If anyone would know what that looks like, it's James freaking Comer. The committee then released an additional 20,000 pages of documents received from the Epstein estate, as if to say, yeah, those 3 emails look really bad. Look at all these 20,000 other documents. I'm going to just bury you with this avalanche of stuff so that you can be busy with that while not looking at that really pertinent stuff that the Democrats released. Heather Cox Richardson said, those were hardly better. In a 2015 email, Epstein gave tips on stories about Trump and girls to then New York Times financial reporter Landon Thomas Jr. When others asked Thomas for stories, Epstein wrote, have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool. And he was so focused, he walked straight into the door. In another email, Epstein offered photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen. And Thomas urged, I'm serious, man. For the good of the nation, why not try to get some of this out there? Heather Cox Richardson continues, but a story revealed this information did not appear in the New York Times before the 2016 presidential election or afterward. In one 2018 email referring to Trump's payment of hush money to adult film actress Stormy Daniels, Epstein wrote, "I know how dirty Donald is." Heather writes, despite how explosive these documents were, they do not appear to be the end of the story. They came from Epstein estate, but the files from the FBI investigation into Epstein have not yet been released. Whatever is still outstanding appears to be even worse than what we have seen, as evidenced by Trump's frantic attempts to stop the discharge petition. With the House back at work, Johnson had little choice but to swear in Grijalva. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock. In the hours before that deadline, the president tried to get one of the 4 Republican representatives who had signed the discharge petition to remove their signature, which, by the way, you cannot do. He appeared to focus on Nancy Mace, with whom he had tried to connect by phone. Bad choice, because I believe she claims, or she is a sexual abuse victim from the past, if I'm not mistaken. Bad choice, Donald. And Lauren Boebert from Colorado, whom he invited to meet with him in the White House Situation Room, which is equipped to prevent recording. Carolyn Leavitt confirmed that in the press briefing room yesterday, right? CNN reported that Attorney General Pam Bondi, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and FBI Director Kash Patel joined Trump and Boebert at that meeting. I'm sure Kash was looking directly at her, attentively. You can't see my face as I'm doing. Anyway, when asked about the meeting, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt told reporters, doesn't that show the level of transparency when we're all willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns in the Situation Room where nobody can record the conversation? For his part, Trump took to social media to call the released documents an attempt by Democrats to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, to deflect from how badly they've done in the shutdown and so many other subjects. He urged any Republican involved to be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. Trump's efforts to get someone to take their name off the discharge petition failed. Johnson swore in Grijalva at 4 o'clock as scheduled, and she immediately signed it. Now the petition needs to, quote, ripen for 7 legislative days. Congress and their rules, right? Then Johnson has 2 legislative days to schedule a vote on a measure to require the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files it holds. Faith Wardwell and Meredith Lee Hill of Politico reported this evening, yesterday by the way, that senior Republicans believe as many as 100 Republicans will support the bill when it comes to the floor. Many of them are facing constituents who voted for Trump in the belief that he would release the Epstein files as he promised, and who are angry that the administration appears to be covering them up in the service of rich elites. At what point does it sink into all MAGAs that they're not working for you? Others likely recognize they do not want to be seen as participating in that cover-up, especially with the threat of even worse material waiting to drop. So to paraphrase, remember, 7 days to ripen, 2 days that Johnson has to play pussyfoot and drag out bringing that up for a floor vote. Back to Heather Cox Richardson. If the House passes the bill, it'll go to the Senate, and if the Senate passes it, to Trump for a signature. If he vetoes it, when he vetoes it, Congress has the option to override his veto. In the past, Trump has managed to avoid accountability for his actions by using lawsuits to delay while whipping up his supporters to take his side against what he called witch hunts, hoaxes. Republican lawmakers went along in part because they didn't want to alienate his base. The problem is, I'm sure Heather's going to get into this, his base wants this out, whether he's guilty or not. He is the lamest lame duck of all time. And those Republicans in the House and the Senate, they know that they can't face reprisal from him if he's going to face some heavy fallout from being in these documents. Finally, the looming shadow of Donald Trump having weight to foist on them, to lean on them, it's gone. There is none. If he's guilty as hell when those documents are released, then he's useless to them. He is of no use to them ever again. Watch the 25th Amendment stuff come up. All of a sudden, all these naps he's taking and his decline and physical and cognitive, it'll all come to the surface. You watch, man. These rats will jump off that ship so fast it's not even funny. They will turn on him in a minute. I think we're almost there. Otherwise, he wouldn't be furiously acting to keep this stuff under wraps. He's not doing it for anybody else. When has he ever done anything for anybody else? So he has no sway with anyone in Congress to stop this stuff from coming out now. And their thinking is, well, if he's not guilty, he won't be mad that long because he's not guilty. If it comes out, it comes out. Let everybody else fall on the sword or be exposed and elites, etc. So we don't care about them. So, yeah, he has no pull in this. Heather Cox Richardson again. Now, though a significant portion of MAGA has broken with him, his popularity is low. A new Associated Press NORC poll has his approval rating at 33%, and last week's election showed his coalition is abandoning him. It is not clear that Republican senators will defend him, especially once his erratic behavior, like bulldozing the east wing of the White House, appears to be increasing. As Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, who backed the House discharge petition, told CNN, this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president. And what are you going to do in 2028 and 2030 when you're in a debate and they say, how can we trust you? You covered up for a pedophile back in 2025. That is tough. One last thought from Heather Cox Richardson. She wrote that as new revelations from Epstein documents were hitting social media every few minutes, Representative Eric Swalwell, posted, this is the beginning of the end. I am always skeptical when somebody says that because we've had so many beginnings of the end for so many years. There's been so much smoke. We know there's fire smoldering underneath that pile of nasty orange mango colored leaves. But we've been waiting on the end for a long time, and Teflon Don has managed to avoid accountability. But I'm telling you, his actions here aren't like, well, no, they are actually a lot like other situations. Like when the Mueller investigation was going on, all the times that he withheld people within his administration from being allowed to testify. That's why, like, any time somebody's like, oh, the Russia hoax, the Mueller investigation didn't get to prove what it could have proven or disproven even, because the Trump administration and the president himself kept a lot of people away from having to testify, citing executive privilege. Well, how can you have executive privilege when you're new to the job back then? What privilege did you have when we're talking about actions that were occurring during the campaign and not the presidency? I go back to what I was saying then. Innocent people don't act like this. But here he is in his last term as president. He's already suffered electoral losses in an off-year cycle before even the midterm cycle, and they're working feverishly to fend off the blue wave that'll come in the midterm cycle, likely. I mean, you don't think this economy is just going to miraculously turn around in an instant, do you? Or within 11 months? Y'all, you're about to pay an additional $10,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 just to keep your family insured. Well, a lot of you anyway. That's not going to be good for the economy either. And these tariffs, they're not going away fast enough. And we've seen in the first 10 months how willy-nilly he is with using tariffs as a cudgel, as a weapon to inflict pain or punishment on somebody internationally that he decides he disagrees with or doesn't like a TV commercial from. Oh, and this continuing resolution they just passed, it only takes you through the end of January. Relax, you have another 2 months to enjoy the scepter of not having the government shut down on you. And then in another 60 days, we're likely to go through this all over again because you're not counting on the Republicans in the Senate to actually negotiate ACA healthcare subsidy extensions, are you? Yeah. So again, Democrats will be in a position to hold up the government functioning in order to get the Republican Party to do something for someone other than Donald John Trump or the wealth class that isn't feeling the pain at the health insurance marketplace or at the grocery store or worried about what a Walmart Thanksgiving package costs or has versus what it had and cost last year. Buckle up, buttercups. The next 8 to 10 days are going to be pretty interesting. And the next 60 aren't going to be a vacation from the chaos of the Trump presidency. Again, I have to wonder if a Fox News primetime host is doing their backhanded work to bury Donald Trump. Because Laura Ingraham went to the White House to get a personal tour of the Oval Office and the the Presidential Hall of Fame with the gold-plated cursive lettering on the wall and all the gilded dilly dads and whatnot. It's just so hideous and gaudy. And Trump wanted to give her a personal tour of where the ballroom is going to go and how lovely that's going to be. Just exactly what people want to hear when they're trying to figure out why there's fewer items in the Walmart Thanksgiving packet and why it's all store brand stuff versus the name brand stuff they got last year. I mean, this is pitch perfect tone deafness, right? The let them eat cake of the modern MAGA movement.
New ballroom will go from here to there, and it'll seat a proper number of people, and the White House will finally have, after 150 years, the ballroom that they wanted.
Who wanted?
You know what? They've waited 150 years.
Who's they?
And the public is paying for nothing. The public is paying for absolutely nothing. It's all being done by donors.
But for who?
All the way over there. It'll be beautiful. One of the most beautiful in the world. Come on. Okay? A lot of people don't know that. They don't say that there's no cost. That's some room in there.
That's unbelievable.
Now I'm going to show you. So this is the Presidential Walk of Fame.
Now, whose idea was this?
My idea.
Like it's a theme park or something.
Everything's my idea.
Everything's your idea. Okay.
Sadly.
You hear that snark in her voice?
Who's that guy?
That's Barack Hussein Obama.
Okay.
This is Biden right here.
Wait a second. The profile of Biden.
So he's the worst president in the history of our country, and Barack Hussein Obama is top 5. Meaning bad.
Are you going to replace that with his actual photo?
No, I don't think so. Look at the faces on these people.
So petty.
Those are serious faces, right?
Oh, that's for sure.
Every one of them's a tough cookie.
Do you think these will stay up after you've left office?
Well,
no.
I think they should.
Speaking of someone who's moved recently, I hope you put that crap up using 3M strips, sir.
On the bottom here, this hasn't been put yet. They're being made.
It's like the Make-A-Wish.
We have a plaque.
Make-A-Wish presidency
that goes
here.
that describes in a couple of hundred words. Important, right?
Yep. Very important.
And they're beautiful, beautiful bronze plaques.
Priority here.
Goes up under each picture describing.
So necessary, right?
Look at the scene over here, fellas. Look, how beautiful is that? Come on over here, take a look.
This is the new Rose Garden.
Concrete slab.
But
and now you can have news. That's the same stone as the White House. So now you can have news conferences. You can, nobody could stand in the mud.
Where did you get the stone?
Different places.
Different places.
Yeah.
Why was
but I'll show you something.
Place.
This is the equivalent of what I do with the ballroom. I built many ballrooms and many buildings. And that's my greatest strength, actually. I might as well do this. So this room was in terrible shape. This was done by Jackie Kennedy.
Building ballrooms.
Jackie Kennedy Onassis, then Jackie Kennedy, I hope. And she took this area. It's called the Palm Court. And here we had, one by one, little tiles that were all broken, cheap, out of a box. The walls weren't good. We took it, I restored it. I put in new chandeliers. They had lanterns that were terrible.
I remember this room.
Yeah, it was a nothing room. Yeah. It was an embarrassment.
There was a seat, a bench right underneath there. Yeah.
To come to the Oval Office, you had to go through this room.
Where's Doge?
It was an embarrassment.
This is crazy.
And I took it down and rebuilt it, same as she had it, but at a much higher level. And take a look at the floor. Take a look at the marble. So this is called.
It is really pretty.
Statuary marble. But look at the book ending. Look at the book match. Look how it matches.
That's tough to do.
No, it's very tough. You don't get it. If it's an eighth of an inch off, it's no good.
Is that brass? The brass?
That's two brass strips. But even if you look at the air conditioner vent, it's book matched.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Who can do that? I can do that because I know that.
I just feel like Laura Ingraham was walking through here just placating a goofy old man. This was like a geriatric version of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Hi, I'm Robin Leach. Oh, Donald Trump used to be on that show on the regular back in the 80s, y'all. That's how we knew him. We knew him because of his gaudy, over-the-top, eccentric, lavish decor, and his tastes haven't changed much since the 80s. Being someone who lived the 80s and remembers what it all looked like, it hasn't changed that much. I mean, you've seen photos of Mar-a-Lago, and it's all very dated, so to speak, not very timeless and tasteful, just very, I'm telling y'all, the Rose Garden looks like the South Fork Ranch swimming pool. Anybody who's remember watching Dallas when they had those yellow umbrellas over the oh my God. What he's done to the people's house is, well, I mean, it's an interior design and exterior design crime, but bulldozing an entire building for a ballroom that he's not going to be there to see. He's not going to be in office long enough to see it. And I guess he's hoping that the next person that wins the White House will invite him. But he's hedging his bets on that too, maybe? I don't know.
Do any of your kids have that same delicate attention to detail that you have? Because that's kind of, you can't really teach that.
I think they do. I think Eric is very good. Don in a very different way. It's good.
Yeah. He notably detail-oriented when it comes to straight white lines.
Ivanka is,
awkward.
Tiffany's very smart. She was a great student, always a great student. They're all great students. Actually, they were all great students. And I think Barron's going to be tremendous at that. Yeah, he's very meticulous.
Is he here?
He is. He's here. Oh. He's right upstairs. Want to see him?
Studying, yeah. I'd love to see him.
He's doing a good job. He's tall.
A lot of people
He's a tall one.
A lot of people think he could be the next Trump president.
I don't know. I think.
Or Eric. Or a lot of people are wondering which child would be the best.
In a certain way, they all could. Take a look at this, fellas. You want to see detail?
He totally changes the subject.
Like the sign. Most people would just do a sign they painted on the wall. So that's half-inch thick bronze, carved by a very talented person. And it's brass. It's pure brass. It's half-inch thick brass.
Brass and bronze being two different things. Whatever. Anyway, Scott Sanders joins us next when the Ron Show returns.
Archived audio, blogs, social media links, and more, all in one place. Log on at RonShowATL.com.
The Ron Show is heard weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. House seat 23 here in the Georgia State Legislature is a vacant seat. There is a special election coming up for it. In fact, early voting starts on the 17th of November. Joining me, the lone Democrat running for that seat in something of a jungle primary. We've gone through that before with Deborah Shigley just a month ago, as a matter of fact. And not unlike Deborah, Scott Sanders believes he has a shot. Scott joins me this morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Ron. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you and everybody and all your listeners. Thank you.
So give us a little bit of the background. How is it that you came upon the notion that you wanted to run for a state House seat?
It's an interesting story.
Or were you recruited? Who was it that goaded you into this?
I was not recruited. I was a complete shock to the Cherokee County Democratic Party and it came up out of the blue. So the running joke with my wife is that this is a midlife crisis. I just turned 50, and instead of a sports car, I decided to run for office.
Yeah.
But no, I've followed politics my whole adult life. I've been a blue liberal, progressive Democrat. Grew up in California, lived in Colorado and Boulder, People's Republic of Boulder. Moved out to Georgia, lived in Atlanta. I was a very quiet but active Democrat, donated money, wrote postcards, and did phone banking, but never actually put my feet on the ground. And I talked a lot, but I didn't put my feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so this last year has just been horrifying for progressives and liberals and the country.
Yeah.
And I just kept getting more and more agitated, and finally started being more outspoken, and realized I had some neighbors that were also Democrats and liberals, and we started talking, and I just kept moving, and then went to the first No Kings rally, and just the energy there in Canton was insane for Democrats. Mm-hmm. And then went to Woodstock, and the energy there was beyond belief for Democrats. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And it just kept energizing me more and more. So when the elections were coming up, obviously I was watching the elections last Tuesday night, and just overwhelming energy and just happiness and joy. And I'd been watching the House seat, like, who are they going to run? Because I want to do something. This is my chance for boots on the ground. I'm doing it now. I'm in. I'm finally engaged. And there's nobody registered. It was crazy. So then Tuesday night hits. I'm losing my mind. My friends are losing their mind. And there's still nobody registered. So Wednesday morning, well, actually Tuesday night, I told my wife I was going to register if nobody did. She thought I was crazy because it was about 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. And so when I woke up Wednesday and got ready to head downtown because nobody had registered yet, she goes, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Someone's got to do this." Yeah. And I messaged the Cherokee County Dems again and said, "I don't see anybody running, and I'm going down there. If you guys have a plan or you have someone running, I'll stand down. but we got to have someone in this race. We got to do it. We got to have somebody that people can see and stand behind and, just be visible out there and represent. Mm-hmm. And they got back to me about 3 hours after I had registered. and I was refreshing the, Secretary of State's page. And I was like, I'm still the only one. I'm still the only one. This is insane. Yeah. And then after it was all done, I was sitting in my car going, now what? And, but I want to say, I went into this well aware, at least of what the role and responsibility is. I stay very current on national issues. I try to stay very current on state issues. District issues, not so much, because I found out nobody has run in our district for this House seat since 2018. Wow. And, I'm getting up to speed as fast as I can. And the local party and organizers have just stepped up. It's blown my mind how many people are out there, how many people, and how hard they work 24/7, 365 days a year to just, spread the word and make a difference, and push for Democrats, and it's amazing. So this is day 7 now. Yeah, yeah, and it's been probably the wildest 7 days of my life. It's been amazing, but so I'm going into this eyes open, and I'm giving it everything. This isn't like a impulsive thing where I was going to throw $100-$400 at it. I took money out of my savings account, ready to, spend some money, get some signs, and get my friends out there and do what I needed to do. But it's gotten bigger than I could ever imagine. Yeah, I think you're right. We actually do have a shot at this, and I'm giving it everything. If we got a shot, we're going for it.
Well, then let's make sure that anybody listening can help you out and maybe recoup some of that money. We can go to SandersForGA.com, incidentally, if you'd like to help Scott out with this campaign. So you said the county party has been instrumental, and I love the Cherokee County Democratic Party. That little scrappy bunch is enthusiastic, and I think making a difference in a county that, is on the cusp of, turning blue at some point in time here in the very near future, as most metro Atlanta counties eventually do. So I'm very encouraged to hear that they're gung-ho and right there behind you. What about the state party? Have you heard much from anybody at the state level as far as you running for? The reason I ask is because the Democrats can't win seats if they don't run candidates, and this is a House seat that, as you mentioned, hasn't had a candidate since 2018 on the ticket that was representing the Democratic Party. So, what is the state party saying or doing, or is that still a work in progress?
Well, yeah, and yes, they have stepped up as well. They've reached out to me. We've had conversations about supporting the campaign, and they're engaged as well. There's another competitive district out there that is more likely to flip than mine. That's District 121. Yeah. But I came up out of the blue. And to be fair to everybody, they had plans to run a candidate in the regular election next year. He just wasn't able to run in this one. Mm-hmm. So they had already started beginning the process of preparing for next year, the state and the local Cherokee County Democrats. And so coming up out of the blue caused a whole lot of people to, pause in their tracks, or they thought they were done for the year, at least in terms of, getting ready for next year. And so I threw a wrench in everything, but it was a good wrench, and the support that I've gotten from state has been great, as well as the local Democratic Party, and just everybody's like all in on this.
I love to hear that. That's great.
We've had conversations about next year, and I'm like, let's get through this year first.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, it's being visible. It's causing the Republicans to spend a lot of money and compete in a race that they weren't expecting. Yeah. And you know what? It's just giving people hope. I want to continue that energy that I had last week when, the blue wave started across the country. And we flipped seats all over the country that just were unheard of. In Georgia, the Public Utility Commissioner seats, that was huge, 60%, wins. Let's do this. Someone's got to. Nobody was there, so I did.
That's infectious energy. Just to remind anybody who doesn't know, Representative Mandy Bollinger, who was a Republican in Canton and serving in that role, she died in October after a long battle with cancer. So this is sort of a somewhat unexpected but expected race to have occurred. Obviously, we all would have wished that Mandy would have been able to serve her full term, at least to get to the point where we would have had a not a special election, but in 2026. I want to go back to your pitch here. I was reading a little bit on your website that you speak about having this is damning. This is Oppo research, Scott. You have great friends who are Republicans. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, if this were a primary, this would sink you. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, man, I live in Cherokee County.
But you mentioned,
there's going to be a high percentage of my friends that are Republicans.
You have to, right? Exactly. You have great friends who are independents, libertarians that were at your wedding. You have great friends who are Democrats that you still challenge on some of those positions. You sound like the kind of person who could be, I don't know, a reasonable, rational adult in, diving into a process here that is sort of short on reasonable, rational adults that don't think outside their party rigidity. So how are you going to help change that?
That's my pitch. You pretty much know. That's why I called it common sense. I mean, I've been a consultant for many, many years. I was a consultant for many, many years until my current position. And, the whole point is you want to agree on a goal. And once you agree on a goal and you agree on what's important and what you want to achieve, you kind of have to give up some stuff on how you get there sometimes to get everybody on board. And that has been just completely removed from politics nowadays.
Yeah.
Everybody has to, they want what they want and they have to do it their way. That's it. And there's, it's like the litmus test for candidates. I'm probably going to say some stuff that people aren't going to agree with, but I'm hoping that we're in alignment in terms of what the ultimate goals are. Let's fund education. Maybe it's a change in the state tax. Maybe it's a change in the property tax. Maybe there's some negotiating we're going to have to do to get more people on board to get it done. But if it's important to you, let's get it done first, right? And you can vote for the people you want that would do it your way, but at the end of the day, you're really voting for the goal, not how they're getting there.
But there seems to be some short-sightedness.
That's my pitch, and that's how I get along with all my friends, right?
Yeah.
We're just common sense about it.
But there seems to be some short-sightedness in bedroom communities like Cherokee County, where you speak of education funding. Education funding is usually tied to property tax, and that, of course, benefits areas where higher property tax rates because of higher home values are. And, you mentioned the funding mechanism. And Cherokee Countyans are all for Cherokee Countyans and their kids and their education. But what about the kids in DeKalb County? What about do you see what I'm saying? Those are the sort of conversations.
It's a state seat, man.
Right.
Everything I vote for is going to be in the eye, interest in the eyes of the state and everybody I can help. I'm running for this House district, Cherokee County. Absolutely. But you know what? Doesn't mean I can't care about people in other districts or in the rest of the country. I can give my voice to that too. But
here's the other thing. Yeah, there are reasonable Republicans that you can live with and interact with. There are reasonable independents and libertarians and but when they're in office is when I wonder, like, does reason stop at the door because it doesn't seem to be let in, by the doorman there. So are you going to be able to, you think, break through to people who are just beholden to party politics?
I had my good Republican friends that I was referencing on that webpage.
Are they going to vote for you, by the way?
They're in favor of me, and they said, just don't lose your mind, stay yourself, and it's all good.
Oh, okay.
And that's the thing, man. I'm going to stick to it. And I've had my other relatives, they actually believe in me because I pretty much, when I make my word, I keep it. And that's what it's going to be. I'm not, I even said it on the website, it's a commitment. I'm not beholden to an agenda. My mission in life is just make the world a better place,
Yeah.
And that's kind of it, whatever you got to do. And it was really interesting, like walking out of the Secretary of State's office, hands still shaking, and looking at the people that had already registered, realizing I'm not going to be running against these folks one way or another, and just clicked on their websites, and some of them were in the same state I was. I registered for the domain in the parking lot before I walked up to the Secretary of State's office, right? I built my website that night with like a free website service just to get something up there.
Yeah.
And, I looked at their websites and I was like, okay, this one's kind of reasonable. Whoa, this one is extreme far right.
Yeah.
This one's kind of reasonable, but it's not even in the right house. Wait, this is not even the right race. They hadn't updated their site yet. They'd run before. And so, for the first couple of days, especially as I was working on my site, I was looking at theirs, and every single day they just kept trending more and more right, more and more
Loony.
Trump, more and more MAGA. Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, they're all racing to get that share, right?
Kiss the ring,
that's not a good sign to me, It's
Yeah, but that has been the secret to getting elected in a lot of, again, exurban and rural counties in the state of Georgia. Yep. So, they're going with a formula that may have worked for them in the past. But, hopefully the tide is turning on this, and you have an opportunity here in a bedroom community district where, again, the state of Georgia and the Democratic Party, state party here, they need to win House seats. They need to flip House seats. This is one that they can potentially flip with the climate being what it is.
Yeah. And if I could just have like 1 minute to make a pitch here.
Go for it.
I've learned a lot about the internal dynamics of the district in terms of demographics, in terms of the people there, especially on the side of the Democratic Party over the last few days. So it's just the amount of research and the amount of work that goes into it's amazing. And if anything, that is just like amped up my energy 200% to like make this serious, because there's a number of different reasons why it's like so important and why so many state and local people are getting behind me and helping out. Cherokee County is significantly a Republican conservative county, and it's where they get the bulk of their votes in state elections. Yeah. It's where they counteract the Democrats downtown. And making this dent in their numbers severely limits their capabilities of winning state seats. Yeah. And it scares them, because this is the red underbelly of the party, right? And we're making inroads here. I mean, amazing kudos to Cherokee County Dems. I listened to, what they've done and how they've grown over the last couple of years and the inroads they've made. And Deborah Shigley broke 40% of the electorate in her, senatorial campaign. That's amazing for Cherokee County. But it's also just distressing as all heck for their, the Republican Party out there. We're making inroads in one of their most popular and most necessary bases. And right now, Democrats are energized, right? Yeah. We have a chance to make some differences. So this race is actually really important on a state level, not just a district level, because of the meaning of it, right? Yeah. And if I win, people are going to write op-eds about us. Special election doesn't matter. All the rules are out the door. It doesn't really mean anything. Hey, it's true. It's a special election. Anything can happen. But wouldn't it be great to have articles like that because we won versus, we tried, we got close, but then there's no articles and, whatever.
Well, and I realize this is a one-off election, but, say we flip the calendar and it's 2026. Say you've won and it's 2026 and you're running for re-election, in the general. And all of a sudden, those votes that we didn't have at the party level coming to show up to vote for anybody actually benefits the state level candidates, the constitutional level candidates who are voting, because they benefit by having you on the ticket as well. That it's something that Charlie Bailey, the chairman of the Georgia Democratic Party, spoke about when I had him on my show back in June, that you got to have the down ballot candidates who may or may not win, but are at least going to bring voters to the precincts to help up the ballot as well.
Yep. Amen. Absolutely. But every little bit helps, man. So this is me doing my bit to help and making up for not having boots on the ground for years.
Yeah. I like your odds here. I think you've got a puncher's chance. You're going up against 5 other candidates who are going to split the conservative vote. And if you can get 50% in the first shot, then why not?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Why not? And it's really funny. I mean, I've lived in Cherokee County 7 years now. I've made a lot of friends, and I volunteer in the school and do a lot of other stuff around the county. But it's really funny how people are like, "Oh man, we are in. We are going to vote for you." And I looked at the district lines, and I live like just inside the district. It's pretty funny. So I've got friends that are 5 minutes away that want to vote and they can't. And I'm like, that's all right. Just tell your friends that live 5 minutes north of.
That's right. Well, and they can still put yard signs. People are going to drive past those yards. Yeah. All right. Listen, I'm going to take a quick break. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to a hyperactive Cocker Spaniel here, so I'm going to calm down. I do want to take a quick break though, because we haven't really talked about the issues, and I want to talk about the issues that are important to you while you're running for this race. We're with Scott Sanders, who's running in the special election for Georgia House District 23 on The Ron Show. Thank you so much for listening. On Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. He's working on 4 hours sleep, but I guarantee he's had a cup of coffee or two because he sounds caffeinated. Scott Sanders running for Georgia House District 23 special election. Early voting starts on November 17th. And we were just sitting here talking before we came on, and he said, I still have to set up my bank account. Get the bank account set up so we can get folks to go to your website, which is sandersforga.com, and make donations. But, I mean, look at you. You're not even prioritizing the fundraising pitch, which, God, I cannot stand. And both parties do it. All candidates do it. It's the first thing you see on their website, and I'm sure it'll be the first thing eventually on your website. But at least you just got your feet in the race, and you're on the ground. You're knocking on doors. You're doing the hard work first before the money, and that says a lot about your character already. What are the issues that you think are both driving you and will drive voters in HD 23 to vote for you?
I really appreciate the compliment. Thank you. The number one thing for me, far and above everything else, is education, funding for schools and funding for teachers. My wife is a teacher, and I absolutely just fell in love with her. And I watched her in the classroom, and I would volunteer to help out in her classroom or go to her school after hours and help her set up her classroom because it was the only way I would see her. She was so busy. Yeah. But, the life of a teacher is rough. When we were dating, she barely had enough money to buy a beer when we would meet at the bar, on a date. And I was like, this is not fair. Like, you work your rear end off and you don't get anything for it. And she just works so hard. And so I started volunteering at the school, started coaching in Science Olympiad teams and doing other things. And it's just amazing meeting her friends that are teachers. It's just how hard they work. The ones that care, the ones that make a difference, how hard they work and how little they get for it. Yeah. And how much extra work they have to put in out of their own, or money they put in out of their own pocket and everything. So, it's just a personal issue to me. My brother has been a teacher for 40 years, and he's a principal. Just education, I would say, runs in my blood because I wasn't a teacher, but it's all around me, and it's something I care about. So, number one priority is, like, I look at schools. If you look at my Facebook page, I actually did a driving tour of the district, and I just mapped out all the schools so I could just see the different areas and see the different schools, and some are really nice, and some are falling apart. It's like, man, let's just fix this. Yeah. All our kids need school. And it's important.
Schools are so central to communities, too, and it's been such an evisceration over the last half decade, or, half century or so, that it's really sad, and I think you're right. It's a rallying point.
Yeah, and it's a killer because, you know what, when they go to cut budgets or they need to find money in a budget, they cut it from a school because it doesn't impact anything for 10 years down the road. Yeah. So the people that cut it are gone or not able to be held accountable, right? But then the teachers just got more work and less money. And, if you put money in the teaching budget and the school budgets, you don't see that. But 10 years down the road, all of a sudden, states can have growth and prosperity and a heck of a lot of smart kids. Sorry, I almost cursed there. No, I'm excited.
Okay. It's okay. There seems to be, if that's cussing, then that's nothing. But there seems to have been so much attention, especially in these exurban and rural counties, about what books are in the library or what books are being used, et cetera, and so on. And teachers have been sort of on the defensive since then. What is your take on cooling that climate?
I'd love to do everything I could to kind of remove those restrictions and give teachers back some freedom, in terms of how they teach. And because different teachers have different personalities, they have different skills. Some are better at teaching in one way than another. I don't believe in censorship. I'm a huge book nerd. I've got hundreds and hundreds of books all over my house and go to the library all the time. I mean, people need access to literature, to worldviews, to diversity, to history, and it can be unbiased, or you can have it taught with feeling by somebody who feels about the subject, as long as they, embrace the entire subject. I absolutely, can't stand when I read things about certain books being taken off the lists, that just drives me nuts.
I mean, there's obviously levels of appropriateness for, like, elementary or middle school, but I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I agree with that 1,000%. So outside of education, what are the core issues that are going to drive voters to your campaign?
Okay. So education is a big one. The next one is public services. I work with first responders, my day job, and, support the network for them. Yeah. And so, I'm all about public services and first responders and the job they do and how hard it is. And, that's, emergency personnel, police officers, et cetera. But then also public services in the sense of libraries, like I mentioned before. Books are a passion of mine. Yeah. People should have access to that because, there's not a lot, you may not have a good internet connection at home. We're a rural county. They may not have access to books at school, but the library has a lot more than their school does. And so there's just the opportunity there for education. The libraries do a lot of programs and a lot of social activities, and they do engage the community, like you said, schools do. Libraries do as well. And, I'm down at R.T. Jones Library every month doing the scavenger hunt with my little ones. It's just fun. And then you go to the kids section, pick up books, they get a lollipop for completing the scavenger hunt, and then we go home. We read the books, we go back next week. It's just that kind of stuff. The infrastructure, the services for the community is the other big point that, I really want to push for.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, you've still got some work to do. You need to go to the bank and get that account set up so we can get some folks to donate to your campaign because I mean, it's encouraging that anybody wants to step forward and run, but like pulling money out of their savings, I've worked for congressional candidates who did that, and it's heartwarming and it's also heartbreaking at the same time. So let's make sure we get some folks to donate to your campaign. Again, the website is sandersforga.com. And Scott, as soon as he gets off this call, is going to run to the bank and get that account set up so that you guys can donate to it. as soon as possible. Scott Sanders, thank you so much for joining the Ron Show, the lone Democrat running for Georgia House District Seat 23 in Cherokee County. My best to you, best of luck, and stay in touch, okay? Because when you go running for re-election in 2026, we're going to have to do this all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on. And remember, the special election is December 9th. Please get out there and vote. Vote early if you can, but vote by December 9th.
Yeah,
Let's
I was
do
going to
this.
say, early voting starts November 17th for sure. We want to get them out there early or on Election Day. Thank you so much for your time, Scott.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I love ending a show with that kind of enthusiasm. We need more Scott Sanders in the world, but there he is in House District 23 here in the state of Georgia, running for that recently vacated seat. Again, that is SandersForGA.com. I'll include that link in the show notes at RonShowATL.com. That's going to do it for today's Ron Show. We are weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now. The rerun, 8 to 10 a.m. the following morning, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. Again, show notes at RonShowATL.com. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.